Hey, comedians. I got a few comments over the last few months on maybe potentially doing a quick demo video on how I write my comedy. So I'm gonna put this in my YouTube channel. It's gonna be for everyone who writes comedy, but I also think this works for any sort of writing projects, whether you have a newsletter, whether you have a blog or you're writing a book. This kind of works in general, and largely the way I organize my comedy and write my comedy comes from software development uh, practices, and I use basically a Kanban board as like my main hub, and from there I will move and do things based on that. So let me just show you what I kind of do. And this is a demo board I created because I don't want to show all my bits. It's a comedian's journal is quite private, and I've it's important to respect that. So these are the ones I'm happy to show in my demo environment. But basically, in software development, you have these four categories where it's backlog, in development, testing, and production. And these little cards here are the things that are in the backlog, so waiting to be worked on. In development means you're writing. So this will be writing code, or in my case, it'd be writing jokes. And then testing and QA, this is where you actually go to the stage and start testing the material and rewriting things and maybe moving it back to development. So you're going to find cars go between these two categories a lot. And then once you are done, you can then go to production. So I'm going to show you, I guess, like different phases of this. But essentially, what I do is I have on my iPhone, I have a note file where I basically write premises really quickly because I need to move as fast as I can. Then once I pick a premise to potentially write a joke about, I'll add a card here. So I have one premise I had ready. It's like classify ADHD as dog breeds instead. I had this idea where instead of, because it's a bit of a spectrum, maybe if you pick the right dog breed on what your ADHD kind of looks like, you can better train yourself. And that's something that I think about a lot, because I do think that we're quite reptilian or mammalian in very interesting ways, like a dog. And I think once you understand yourself as um, an animal that just needs to be in a system, you can fix your ADHD pretty quickly. That's the way I'm thinking about it. But it's educational. But anyway, sorry. I'm going off track. Speaking of ADHD, and so create this card, and then what I usually do is write notes about this. So whatever I just said, right? It's like premises about classifying ADHD as dog breeds might be easier to understand for people and their problems. Now, my background's actually in health literacy, so using metaphors in healthcare information is actually quite a powerful tool, which is why like some of my comedy has like a health slant to it. At least the ones I'm writing right now, anyway. So these are some notes I have. You press save, and so it's in the backlog now. Now I can move these cards however I like. So here's an active one. This is a real one where I call it Tan Ferrari, where I had this joke about I'm still working on it, but it's just me streaming thoughts one day, and I just able to maybe find something. And one of these lines might be a good kind of punchline. But Tan Ferrari is that like no one buys a tan colored car, uh, and if they do, it's not by choice, and that's kind of like me on the dating apps. I'm like a tan Ferrari, like it's like oh it's a because I anyways. But I have all these notes here, and now from here, I'll start a Google Doc. And then I'll copy and paste that here because I like writing on Google Docs. This is just to collect my notes and stuff. And then I can say here in the comments, started Google Doc. So the idea is that you're tracking your actions as best you can. And then from here, I'll take these notes and go to this Google Doc and start writing those jokes out. And another good example is, let's see here. So once I start writing, I'll move it to in development. And let's go to my French stand-up moment because I'm starting to do potentially French stand-up. And here's an example. So I have the doc here and my notes that I only want to try a minute. I can go to that doc and here's like my thing I'm kind of working on. And once it's kind of shaped up, I'll move it to in development or testing. So in this case here, this is a joke I have about like myself talking to a First Nations chief, and we're just sharing our mutual you know, similarities in culture. I think that's like what I find interesting. But if I go here, I have some jokes here. These have been tested. If I'm happy with this, and if I'm happy with whatever I came up with in this bit, I'll move it to production, which means that it's live. I'm comfortable with it. I don't need much practice with it. There's not much more testing I can do. You can always test and refine jokes, but this is where it's, as a whole, it's kind of done. It's like 80 to 90% done. I'm happy with it. It's good. And then over time, you just build this sort of kind of roster of bits. This is how I stay organized with, at least I try to stay organized. I'm only good maybe 60 to 70% of the time on on kind of crafting these sort of jokes this way. But these are all free tools that you can use. So Google Docs and Trello are both free, but there's a lot of free tools for Kanban that you can get. That's basically what I do. It's three tools. So it's iPhone Notes, Trello, and Google Docs. And then what I also do, this is just a demo example, but I'm starting to create a Google Sheet where I basically keep track of all my shows and basically write things about how it went, and then even the recording file on my iPhone. The idea is that, you know, one of the things George Carlin said is that one of the biggest mistakes comedians make is not stay organized. And to be fair, organization sucks. I'm the least organized person that you'll meet. This is like me at my best, and even then, it's like 50% effective. I just don't like organizing. It's a lot of energy spent, but if you invest that energy back into organizing, you'll be able to manage and be strategic about how you write bits. And again, this idea works with like writing your thesis. It works with basically anything about writing, or including code. So it's quite universal. But anyways, that's basically the gist of it, of how I use it. Feel free to create your own system. Like, this is what works for me to a certain extent. And you know, again, like, I don't have tags or anything about these things, right? I don't have, like, you can do so much with Trello. So create your own system, but essentially bits are like software. There's some are in the backlog, some are in development, some have to be tested, then eventually goes to production where it's usable.